What's going on, everyone? John from 16 Views. Apple just had their fall event where they released the iPhones. Very first thing they talked about was Apple Watches, and they released 3 new models. The Series 8, the Apple Watch SE Series 2, and then the highly rumored Apple Watch Ultra, which we knew would be some sort of rugged edition. But let's talk about the Series 8. So the Series 8 is almost exactly the same thing as the Series 7. Basically, they added a temperature sensor, which they talked about would help with cycle and ovulation tracking. That's one of the biggest reasons they gave for the temperature sensor. It would be this ovulation cycle and helping you better understand when you're ovulating, what is the best time to conceive, that sort of stuff. Other than that, not really any physical change between the Series 7 and the Series 8, just that temperature sensor. Apple Watch SE, very welcome change. It now starts at $250 instead of $280. I think that's probably because they took the Series 3 completely out of the lineup. Series 3 should have been gone like a couple years ago, but that's great. So now the cheapest watch you can get is the SE, and that'll start at $250 instead of $280. Basically the exact same thing as the SE version 1, except they've now added the S8 chip, which is that newest chip. But other than that, physically, it's exactly the same heart monitor, same everything. You're just getting a faster watch, basically, and then all the benefits that come out of watchOS 9. Then finally, we've heard a lot of rumors about this, that Apple is going to be making some sort of pro Apple Watch, some sort of special edition, rugged edition. So that's what we got. They named it in classic Apple fashion, the Apple Watch Ultra. So now the screen is flat. It's no longer curved over the edge like other Apple Watches are. It's flat and slightly recessed behind a metal border. This will help with scratches and cracks and stuff like that, since it's supposed to be this sort of rugged watch. It added a third button, which is a customizable action button. They added a bigger battery, which now you can get up to 36 hours. This is obviously a very niche Apple Watch. This is for extreme people. This isn't for you if you go to the gym and run every day. This is for people who are scuba diving, who are hiking the Himalayas, running across the Sahara for 30 miles. This is for extreme people. So obviously not me at all. But one thing they focused on a lot was scuba divers, and I know this is a very small community, so I obviously I don't have any experience in it, but they talked a lot about the scuba diving features because they partnered with this one scuba diving company. So basically now there's a ton of scuba diving features. It can track depth. It gives you the staggered time that you need to go up when you're ascending from scuba diving, so you don't get the bends. So yeah, I thought that was a great feature. And this whole time I'm thinking, oh, this Apple Watch I'm going to recommend to my dad, because one of the biggest things my dad has said about Apple Watches is oh, the battery doesn't last long enough. I don't want to have to charge it every day. And so I'm thinking oh, this might be an Apple Watch for him. No, you know why? Because that's $800. 800. That is so much money for a watch. And obviously, this watch is not meant for me. This isn't at all. I am not the target market. And if you are the target market, maybe $800 is worth it, and maybe it's cheaper than other Garmin watches that are for these extreme things. Ooh, I was not expecting that. I was thinking $550, $600, but $800, that is high. Those are the 3 Apple Watches. Series 8, you don't upgrade unless you have maybe a Series 5 or below. SE, if you have an SE version 1, you don't gotta upgrade to the SE version 2. But if you have a Series 3 or something like that, or anything below a Series 3, even a Series 4, go ahead and upgrade to that SE or the Series 8, because then you'll be getting a lot of improvements out of it. And then also, most of the things I talked about was just kind of about watchOS 9, which I think watchOS 9 is going to the Series 4 and above. And this is going to be adding a lot of better sleep tracking and just workout tracking. So I think a lot of these updates are coming more in software rather than the hardware, which is great because then you don't need to actually upgrade and you'll just get it in a software update that's free, which is awesome. Second thing that I talked about was AirPods Pro 2. And so we just kind of saw the, basic improvements that you would see out of headphones. Better noise canceling, better battery, better sound. In the physical earbuds, that's about the same. The stem looks a little longer, but now on the stem, you can swipe. It's touch sensitive, so you can swipe from music controls, turn it up or down. And then the case, they actually added a couple of features. So the case now has a speaker. So if you ever lose it, you can go into Find My and play a sound. That'll help you find it. You can now charge it with an Apple Watch charger. It's a very nice feature. I didn't even think of that, but that really makes stuff a lot easier. And then finally, they added a little lanyard loop built into the case, which is a nice feature. I know a lot of my friends and I really see this on college students. They just get little AirPods cases and then clip them to their lanyards. Now you don't need that. It has a little built-in hook that you can put a little string through and put it put it on your lanyard. So I thought that was a nice addition. Very solid upgrade, exactly what you want to see. They still start at $250. If you're going to make the upgrade, I would definitely say wait a couple months, because in a couple months you're going to see the prices drop to maybe like $200, $220 on like Best Buy or Amazon. Kind of exactly what we saw with the AirPods original edition. You can kind of find them for way lower than like retail price at $250. So maybe hold off just a few months before you get them. With all that aside, this is an iPhone event. Let's hear about the iPhones. Come on. So first, they talked about the iPhone 14 models, which are like the lower end. They've gotten rid of the mini. So now it's the 14 and the 14 Plus. So they switched the mini out, put that aside. I'm assuming those just weren't selling as much as they thought. And so now they added a Plus version because everyone wants a big phone. So there's now the 14 and 14 Plus, and I'm just going to put that out there, just straight up, do not buy these phones. These phones are almost exactly the same as the 13. You're getting the same chip. You have an A15 chip. You just have one extra GPU core. Not worth an upgrade. Same dimensions, same size, same screen. No promotion or anything like that. They did improve the cameras a little bit. On the main sensor, they said low light is going to be improved by, I think, about 50%. Apple gives you those low light numbers every single year, but they basically just made the sensor a little bit bigger and the aperture a little bit wider on that main camera. Again, not worth an upgrade. You have a new selfie camera that now has built-in autofocus, but has a new f1.9, so we'll be getting a little bit of depth of field, but it's also a tiny little selfie camera sensor. So are we going to be seeing much? I don't know. We'll have to test that out. Again, not a reason to upgrade. One rumor that I had been seeing a lot had been eSIM. That Apple was going to completely get rid of like a normal SIM card for eSIM, and I was a little hesitant about that. I was like, I don't think Apple would quite do that yet. They did. Now it'll be easier to have like 2 phone numbers, 2 carriers, that sort of stuff. A little better privacy. So that's like a small thing. You know that there was very little upgraded in this phone when Apple spent about 50% of the iPhone 14 stage time talking about something called Satellite SOS, which is basically they've added hardware in the iPhones that can now communicate to satellites. So if you're ever in like a crazy, like a super rural area and you get lost, you get stuck, you get hurt, you can now access like the lower orbit satellite network to call first responders. The whole time I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking like, this sounds expensive. This is like a lot of infrastructure that Apple had to set up. How much is this going to cost? And they keep going. They haven't mentioned anything. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Like, this is awesome. And at the very end, they say free for the first 2 years. There might have been some fine print underneath, but I didn't see anything that said what it'd be after those 2 years. It would be something if you have your iPhone for 2.5 years, down the line, and you are hiking and you get hurt and you try to use this satellite SOS thing, and it says something along the lines of, sorry, can't be in use, you don't have the subscription, and then you're stuck. Obviously, there's no way Apple would do this. I'm assuming it would go through, you get saved, and they'd charge you some sort of like fee or something like that. But I am interested to see what exactly if it's a one-time payment after this of like $50, or if it's like a $29.99 a year kind of thing. I in no way can recommend you to upgrade or get the iPhone 14 or 14 Plus. For the 14, save yourself $100, $150 and just get the 13. It's almost exactly the same phone. If you want a bigger phone and like want to get the 14 Plus, there'll probably be deals on the 13 Pro Max from last year that are going to be around $900, which is where that 14 Plus starts at. A 13 Pro Max is going to be better than the 14 Plus. You're going to have the same chip. You're just going to have more cameras, better design, better battery life, better screen. And it's probably going to be roughly around the same price. Let's be honest. We don't really care about the 14. We don't really care about the baseline. Everyone wants to know about the Pro. What is the best thing Apple offers? What did they put into their best phone, their most expensive phone? I'm sitting there. I'm so stoked. I'm so psyched about seeing what Apple's offering, what's Apple's putting in this 14 Pro. And it's opening up. They have like, that beautiful aesthetic Apple teaser. And I'm interested. I'm like, what is going to be like how Apple has a special edition color every year for the Pro models. Last year it was like that beautiful blue, and it opens up and it's purple. And I'm like, oh, like I'm not a hater on purple. It's like a fine color. But on an iPhone, like purple for 2 years on a phone, like that's going to get old quickly. And I just text my friend in all caps. I'm like, no way. Not like, this is not purple. Like they did not just do purple. Rough way to start. But let's continue. They have now moved the proximity sensor behind the screen, and so there's no more notch. It's not quite what we saw in a lot of the renders and leaks, kind of like a pill-shaped and then a space and then like one circle for the selfie camera. It's just one big pill, and it looks fine. I still like it better than the notch. I appreciate that they're trying to innovate and kind of at least change the design somewhat. That's really the big physical difference. They added a feature that this is a software feature. They called it Dynamic Island, and it basically utilizes that like pill-shaped cutout and creates like notifications out of it. It's using that dead space around the pill shape that's not being used to just kind of keep a constant notification there, be it if you're playing music, if you're on a call, if you get a text notification. I think it was such a good idea because first of all, it's just better usability. You can constantly see what music playing, be able to skip stuff like that, but it also just is way less distracting. I think, when we first got the notch, it definitely gets your attention because it was like, oh shoot, there's a notch. There's a weird little cutout at the top of the display. And it's going to be the same thing with this pill shape. It's like, oh wow, there's just a dead space circle at the top of my phone. But I think by using this dynamic island, I think that it hides it way more. And it looks pretty cool, and it seems like it's going to be a very, very useful feature. So yes, this is a software feature, but it comes from a hardware change. But I wanted to mention that and spend a little time on it because I think it's a very, very good idea. I was literally just having this conversation with my roommate like yesterday, like no joke, about how iPhone has not added always on display yet. And I thought that was a little bit weird. What do you know? They heard me and they made a change in a day. We now have an always on display on the iPhone. They upgraded the LTPO technology in the screen. And so now the refresh rate can drop all the way to 1 hertz. But it's not kind of like what you see on like a lot of Android phones where it's just a black screen and then they have a couple pixels light up with time and then maybe a notification. You're given your like whole lock screen with the notifications and everything. It just like gets adaptively dimmer and then refreshes way less to save battery. This is definitely going to burn more battery than just like a more classic always on display. Then camera. We did hear rumors about this, that Apple is probably going to upgrade to a 48 megapixel camera. And they did. The main camera is now 48 megapixels, but in like normal mode, it'll do pixel binning. It'll take that 48 megapixels and pixel bin it to 12, just take 4 pixels, combine it. But that's still great because bigger pixels equals better images and better low light. So the sensor is now 65% larger than it was last year, which that's a pretty big improvement. 65% is a lot. Don't worry, I know for you like nerds out there, you photographers like me, you will be able to get 48 megapixels if you shoot in Pro RAW, which I do appreciate. I'm glad Apple is giving us that opportunity. Looking at the stats, looking at the numbers, you should be getting some pretty solid low light images out of this phone, especially if you have pixel binning on. Now that the main sensor is 48 megapixels, you'll now be able to get a 2x zoom. So before we've had, the 0.5, we'd have normal, and then we've had a telephoto at 3x. So now we have 0.5 normal, and then a 2x, which is basically just going to use the main sensor and crop in because you have that 48 megapixels, and then the telephoto, which will be that 3x. One thing that I noticed, they just said all day battery life. They didn't say 2 hours longer than the 13 Pro. They just said all day battery life. So this could either mean 2 things. 1, it's the same battery life as last year. Or 2, it's a little bit worse than last year. Finally, let's talk about price. Because price, let's be honest, price is the most important thing. So price stays the same. I know there was a lot of rumors about prices like going up by like $50 or $100. No, prices are still the same. So overall thoughts. Just this whole event, there was a huge emphasis on safety. The Apple Watch, they added crash detection. iPhone 14, they talked about the satellite SOS the whole time, which kind of signals to me that, they didn't have a lot of like physical upgrades that they could do. So they kind of needed time to fill. So they talked about safety a lot. I will be picking up a 14 Pro. I have an 11 Pro right now. So this will be the phone I'm getting. And as I was watching this keynote, I'm thinking like this isn't a lot. I'm a little disappointed. This left me wanting more. And then I had to remind myself that where we are in tech right now, where we are with the smartphone industry, there are very few things that companies can do to keep improving. There is very little innovation we have left. Everything is going to be very minimal upgrades. And so yes, while the upgrade between last year and this year wasn't huge, not a lot of people are upgrading every single year. 2 to 3 years of small iterative upgrades make for a big upgrade for the user experience. Like I am upgrading from an 11 Pro. With the 14 Pro, I will get significantly better cameras. I will get a high refresh rate. I will get a bigger, brighter screen. I'll get a significantly better battery. So yes, while between the 13 and the 14, this was not a huge upgrade. Between the 12 and the 13, there was not a huge upgrade. Between the 11 and the 12, there was not a huge upgrade. But you take all those minor upgrades and put them together over a couple phones because people aren't upgrading every year, And that's a good upgrade. If you're on an 11, if you're on a 12, this is worth the upgrade. Still a little bit pressed about the purple. Not gonna lie. That purple's gonna bug me for a little bit. I was really hoping for like a better color. That is my thoughts, a rundown of the 2022 Apple iPhone keynote. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Are you gonna upgrade? How do you feel about the purple? Because that's the one thing that I'm just hung up about. The purple color, I am not digging. Maybe it'll grow on me. But what are your opinions on it? I want to hear about it. I'm John from 16 Views. Subscribe if you'd like. See ya.